Hey everybody, welcome to lesson 9 for Conquering Algebra 2. In this lesson, the only concept is going to be working with percents in word problems. And so I just wanted to remind us, I know we did this 1 or 2 lessons ago, but what percent of blank is blank? And that's really the statement that we're looking for to help us set up our equation. And just a reminder, in case we didn't already know, when we're looking at this, what percent of, and this blank is going to be our total. And this part is going to be the new. Sometimes it will be a portion, or it will be larger than our total. It varies, but you'll usually see for our total number, it will be very close to our word of, and then our new will be closely positioned to is, or the result of, and things like that. So let's do some practice. Okay, so our first example is the wood nymphs and the maids gambled and frolicked before the banquet began. If 70% of those present were wood nymphs and 120 maids were present, how many wood nymphs came to the banquet? So two things we need to look at. We got 120 maids and 70% were wood nymphs. So I'm going to set this up as a ratio box just so you can see all the information that we are working with. We're still going to set up our problem in that equation format that we've been doing, but this is just to help you guys get an idea. So we have our percent and our actual. We have wood nymphs, maids, total. Our total percentage is always going to be 100. And then 70% were wood nymphs, which means 30 were maids. We don't know how many were there total. We do know 120 were maids, and we want to know how many wood nymphs were there. Okay, so in this case, I would set it up as 70 over 30 equals x over 120, and we would just cross multiply, so that would be 8,400 divided by 30, the zeros are gone, and we are left with 280. Okay, so now let's work it out the other way where we have just that one equation, what percent of blank equals blank. Okay, so using our equation, we're gonna have to work with maids because that's the one where we actually have a number. And we can figure out what the percent is. If we know that wood nymphs was 70%, we know that maids is going to be 30%. So because we have an actual number and a percentage, that's going to be the one that we use for our equation. Now when I solve this, I'm going to have to solve for the total number just because that's how these formulas work. Once I find the total number, I can subtract that number. I can subtract 120 from that number to find the number of wood nymphs. So we're plugging this in. And we have 30% of x, because we don't know, or what number, equals 120. Now I cannot leave 30% in percent format. I need to change it to a decimal or to a fraction. I'm going to work with a decimal because we're about to divide it. So I'm just going to say 0.3x equals 120. Divide both sides by 0.3. So x, our total number, is going to be 400. Okay, so now that we know that our total is 400, I can subtract the number of maids. And I will get 280, which is the number of wood nymphs. And we're done. Our second example is the harvest was cornucopian as it was 120% greater from the last year. If the yield was 140,800 bushels, how many were harvested last year? So again, there's two ways we can set this up. We can do a ratio box and solve it as a proportion, or we can just do our one statement, what percent of blank is blank. And so there are two ways that we can solve this. We can put it in our statement, what percent of blank is blank, or we can solve it as a ratio box. I'm going to do that one first because there is a concept here that I want you guys to learn, and it's easier to show it whenever we do the ratio box. so we have our percent and our actual. We have the original. Then we have our increase. And then we have our new total. Okay, so our original percent is always, always, always 100%. We don't know how much it was because that's referring to what they got last year. That's actually what they want us to find. We know that our increased percentage is 120%, meaning our new percentage is 220%. And it says that it yielded 140,800, and we no longer need this middle part. And so I can set this up as two ratios and solve with cross multiplying. So we have 100 over 220 equals x over 140,800. We're going to cross multiply, so I'm just going to add 2 zeros to the end. And then there's my commas now, and I'm going to divide that by 220. I'm putting this in my calculator. And as I do, I'm taking my time to make sure that I get all the right zeros in the right places. Divided by 220. And our answer is, for x, 64,000. A nice way to quick check my work is knowing that the increase was 120%. This number should be less than half of this because we are dealing with over 200%. If this was 200%, then this would be double what this one is. And so looking at that, looks like we did good. Okay, so now let's work this out doing our statement, what percent of blank is blank. Okay, so again, we said that our percentage is 120%, and here's how you know that you had to add that original 100%. It doesn't say it was 120% of last year. It says greater than last year. That's how you know you have to add on the original as well. So we're gonna say 220% of what number equals, and then we know that we got 140,800. And then from here, we got to turn this into a decimal, so 2.2 times what number equals 140,800. And then we're just going to divide both sides by 2.2. And in your calculator, you will see that what number equals 64,000. And we're done. So both methods will get us the same answer. Ratio boxes, I find, are just more helpful for those people that are visual, whereas some people, they don't need to see that. They already know, they can remember. The biggest thing is don't forget to add that original 100% because it will totally throw off your answer. So that is the biggest part to remember with these types of percent word problems. And that's it. We finished lesson 9, percent word problems.